To ascertain the presence of a quorum.
Thank you, Madam President. Councilor Baker.
Here.
Councilor Campbell.
Here.
Councilor Siomo. Present. Councilor Edwards. Councilor Asabi George. Present. Councilor Flaherty. Councilor Flynn. Councilor Garrison. Councilor Janey. Present. Councilor McCarthy. Here. Councilor O'Malley.
Present.
Councilor Wu. Present. And Councilor Zachem. Madam President, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this time, I would like all guests, colleagues, and staff to please rise. Oh, actually, before we do that, Madam Clerk, if you could amend the attendance record to reflect that Councilor Edwards is here. Thank you. If all guests, colleagues, and staff could please rise. At this time, for the invocation, and after the invocation is delivered, I ask that everyone remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilor O'Malley will introduce our clergy for the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President, and good afternoon, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, and guests. I am so delighted to introduce our clergy member this afternoon. Reverend Lindsay Popperson is a minister in the United Church of Christ. She also serves as chaplain of the Sherrill House Skilled Nursing and Rehabilitation Center in Jamaica Plain, which my mother received excellent care there last year. She's also a weekend associate pastor at the Old North Church in Marblehead, as well as Allen Church in Dedham. Lindsay, a native Bostonian, attended Warren Wilson College in North Carolina, as well as BU School of Theology. Lindsay has a passion for immigration justice and ministering to those who have been pushed to the margins of society. Lindsay loves her community garden in her local branch of the Boston Public Library. She is still a newlywed. I was honored to, I can't say I officiated, but I held Pope Joan, who is Lindsay's dog, at her wedding to Ashley last August here at City Hall. Please join me in welcoming a wonderful Jamaica Plain resident and a great member of the faith community, Reverend Lindsay Popperson.
In the Holy Scriptures in Judaism and in Christianity, the word for breath is the same as the word for spirit, and so we remember that God's presence is always as near to us as our own breath. So I invite you to take a deep breath in with me and a deep breath out. Let us pray. Holy One, you are always as near to us as our own breath. We pray that you would make us aware of your presence here in this chamber. Make us aware of your presence here in each one of these people. Make us aware of the mighty power that you have given each of us. Make us brave and wise and humble and loving as we do the work that is ours to do in this world. We pray that you would keep us ever mindful of the residents of this city and this world. We pray for all of those who struggle, all of those who suffer. And we pray that you would help us to be the answers to their prayers. We are here to do the work that you have called us to do. And so be with us as we do it. We pray all of this in the name of all that is holy. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much.
So I've got to figure out what pages. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Councilor O'Malley, and thank you, Lindsay. Before we move on to the regular order of business, I think it's always important to acknowledge young people. And when we have a packed chamber with young people in the room, it's a beautiful thing. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for showing up. We appreciate it. Moving on to approval of the minutes. If there are no corrections to be made, the minutes from the last council meeting will stand approved. Seeing and hearing no objections, the minutes are so approved. Moving on to communications from His Honor the Mayor.
Docket number 0866, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend an amount of $350,000 in the form of a grant for the Boston Digital Archaeology Project awarded by the National Endowment of Humanities to be administered by the Environment Department. The grant will fund salary for an archaeologist to collect data and digitize findings and make them accessible to scholars and general public.
Docket 0866 will be assigned to the Committee on Environment, Sustainability, and Parks. Moving on to reports of public officers and others.
Docket number 0867, the constable bonds of the following have been duly approved by the collector treasurer, were received and approved under the usual terms and conditions. Janet Balestra, Stephen Batras, James F. Burke, Paul Burns, John Consolo, James Darby, Sheila Darby, Tamika Dash, John DiNatale, William Doniger, Gerald Fanfan, Marcel Foster, Tyrone Grant, Keith Hershenson, Michael Janus, Catherine Kirby, Joseph Kirby, Frank Kravitsky, Mark Kravitsky, A. Vanessa LaRocque, Anthony M. Lopez, Jay Lowenstein, Joaquin Marchando, Robert Messina, William McKean, Marvin Miner, Suzanne Morrison, George Reese, Pierre Solomon, Patricia Sheets, Joseph Smith, Christopher Waits, Mark P. Weisberg, and Masha S. Wiseman.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The chair seeks approval of docket 0867 under the usual terms and conditions. All in favor say aye.
Christ.
Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0867 has been approved under the usual terms and conditions. Madam Clerk, if we could read dockets 0868 through 0872 together.
Thank you, Madam President. Docket number 0868, notice was received from the mayor of his absence from the city from 9 a.m. on Tuesday, May 21st, 2019, until 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, May 21st, 2019. Docket number 0869, notice was received from the city clerk in accordance with Chapter 6 of the ordinances of 1979 regarding action taken by the mayor on papers acted upon by the city council at its meeting on April 24th, 2019. Docket number 0870, notice is received from the city clerk in accordance with Chapter 6 of the ordinances of 1979 regarding action taken by the mayor on papers acted upon by the city council at its meeting of May 8th, 2019. Docket number 0871, notice is received from the city clerk in accordance with Chapter 6 of the ordinances of 1979 regarding action taken by the mayor on papers acted upon by the city council at its meeting on May 15th, 2019. Docket number 0872, notice is received from the mayor of the appointment of Bethany Serrata as a co-chairperson of Local 1952 Housing Trust Fund.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Dockets 0868 through 0872 will be placed on file. Moving on to reports of committees.
Docket number 0663, the Committee on Government Operations, to which is referred on April 24, 2019. Docket number 0663, an ordinance amending the City of Boston Code Ordinance, Chapter 6, 8, 16, and 18, concerning the registration and licensing of dogs, transfer of the Animal Care and Control Unit from the Inspectional Services Department to the Parks and Recreation Department, submits a report recommending the ordinance ought to pass in a new draft.
Councilor Flaherty, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a quick housekeeping. It's Chapters 6, 7, 16, and 18. Docket 0663 seeks to amend the City of Boston Code by transferring animal care and control from inspectional services over to the Parks and Rec Department. The matter was sponsored by our Mayor, Martin J. Walsh, referred to the committee back on April the 24th. We held a hearing on May 30th where public comment was taken. Christopher Cook, Chief of the Environment and Energy and Open Space, along with Nicole Duhamel, Director of Finance for the Parks, spoke on behalf of the administration, and their testimony included needs from the functional standpoint and educational standpoint to transfer animal care and control unit to the Parks and Rec Department. because a majority of the complaints concerning unleashed dogs and wildlife occur in parks and open spaces. Chief Cook further testified the department is in a good position to engage people about the environment and wildlife through its programs, materials, and resources. The transfer will apply to all employees currently under Animal Care and Control Unit. There are currently 18 existing positions. The committee inquired about factors that led to the transfer, if the transfer will help improve response times, if there'll be any cost savings, and how the transfer will impact the animal adoption program. Based upon the discussion at the hearing, the docket would be amended as follows. In Section 4, the second sentence is amended from the original filing to read as follows. All employees in positions within Animal Care and Control Unit of the Inspectional Service Department shall be transferred to and within the Animal Care and Control Unit of the Parks and Recreation Department. The original filing listed specific positions. This language will ensure that all positions within the unit are being transferred at the same time. As Chair of Government Operations, I'd like to recommend docket 0663, an ordinance amending City of Boston Code Ordinance Chapters 6, 7, 16, and 18 concerning the registration and licensing of dogs, transfer of Animal Care and Control Unit from the Inspectional Service Department to the Parks and Recs Department ought to pass in a new draft. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. Anyone else looking to speak on this matter? At this time, Councilor Flaherty who is the chair of the Committee on Government Operations, seeks acceptance of the committee report and passage of docket 0663 in a new draft. All those in favor of passage say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0663 has been passed. Moving on to matters recently heard for possible action.
Sorry. Docket number 0803, message and order for an appropriation order in the amount of $1,202,337 for the administrative and operating expenses of the City of Boston Preservation Committee, known as CPC, for fiscal year 2020, and a further appropriation order in the amount of $24,309,813 from the Community Preservation Fund. Estimate annual revenue for fiscal year 2020 to be appropriated and reserved for future appropriations.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilor Flaherty, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Docket 0803 involves two budgetary orders. The first is to appropriate funds from fiscal year 20 administrative cost of the CPC, and the second is to reserve fiscal year 20 revenues from the fund for further appropriations based on future project recommendations. To note, this order seeks to appropriate a total of $25,512,150 for fiscal year 20, which is based on a 1% surcharge that was adopted via the ballot initiative back in November of 2016. Mass General Laws, Chapter 44B, Section 6 calls for the City Council to make annual appropriations from the Community Preservation Fund, and that the administrative and operating expenses shall not exceed 5% of the fund's annual revenues. Also in this order, the appropriation amount of $1,202,337 for administrative and operating expenses, which is equal to 4.7% of the fiscal year 20 Community Preservation Program's expenses. At the hearing, we heard from the city's CFO, Emma Handy, as well as the Community Preservation Program Director, Christine Poff. They testified in support of the administration. The committee discussed other aspects of the Community Preservation Program, including projects that have been funded, the application process, funding disbursement process, state match funds, and the next round of CPA fund opportunities which residents should stay tuned for, as they'll be going out late summer and answers out in early fall. I'd like to take this opportunity also on behalf of the council and the city to thank both Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito for their support of the Community Preservation Act, particularly as it pertains to the Senate bill that has been filed by Senator Cynthia Stone Cream, which will increase the state match fund. So on behalf of this body, I want to appreciate their efforts to support our efforts. So at this time, as Chair of the Government Operations Committee, I'm recommending that docket 0803 be appropriated and also reserved for future appropriation. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. Anyone else looking to speak on this matter? At this time, Councilor Flaherty, who's chair of the Committee on Community Preservation, who's chair of the Community Preservation Committee, recommends or seeks acceptance of the committee report and passage of docket 0803. All those in favor of passage say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0803 has been passed.
Docket number 0315, an ordinance establishing equitable regulations on the cannabis industry in the city of Boston. All right, so,
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
I'll make a copy of this.
okay, and then
Councilor Flaherty, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. This matter was sponsored by our colleague, City Councilor Kim Janey, referred to the Committee on Government Operations back on February the 6th.
No.
Committee held a public hearing Tuesday, March the 19th, 2019, and also a well-attended working session yesterday. At the working session, we heard from Jerome Smith, Chief of Civic Engagement and Neighborhood Services, along with Alexis Kachuk, Director of Emerging Industries. The administration provided testimony that they're supportive of reserving up to half of all the licenses for equity applicants, that's a total of 26, in a highly desirable commercial areas, supports the creation of an equity assistance fund, and supports the creation of criteria for equity applicants, including ownership criteria and hiring criteria. The committee inquired about the status of current community host agreements, as well as some of the proposed amendments that were discussed during March's hearing. The discussion around amendments focused on ensuring that there is an equitable rollout of the program around Boston Equity Program criteria and the Boston Cannabis Board, among other things. Based on yesterday's discussion in the working session, as Chair of Government Operations, I recommend that docket 0315 remain in the committee, but would, through the Chair, defer to my colleague, lead sponsor, Councilor Janey, for any further remarks. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. Search for put my mic back on. Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. Councilor Janey, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to thank the Chair of GovOps for his leadership in the working session yesterday. I want to thank all of my colleagues who were able to attend. I believe it was, in addition to Michael Flaherty, Michelle Wu, Josh Zakem, Lydia Edwards, Ed Flynn, Frank Baker. I know that you had staff there, Tim. Others who may have had staff, thank you for your participation, for your input during this process. As you may know, cannabis is now legal in the Commonwealth. We need to make sure that as shops roll out in Boston, that we do so in an equitable way. And so this ordinance is about promoting equity in the process. It establishes an equity program as well as a board here to oversee the process. It would create a registry and also a fund. We had a wonderful, robust discussion with the administration. Many of you were there, as well as many of the advocates and entrepreneurs. I think we are close in terms of agreement around equity and agreement around other items in the ordinance, but I think we need more discussion, and so I certainly support it staying in committee and welcome any additional feedback and input as this process moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Janey. Councilor Edwards, you have the floor.
Thank you. I just wanted to briefly rise to, again, commend the maker for your leadership in this conversation. And also to note, I wanted to also thank the Chair of Government Ops. I thought it was a very productive conversation on a topic that could have easily blown up. And so I thought, you know, when I came in, that we were getting down to the details and doing exactly what people elected us to do. So I wanted to thank you both for your leadership. I just wanted to echo the comments that the maker has made on this particular piece of legislation, and that is that we not only need to make sure that this is about equity, but that in the very forming of the conversation and setting up a structure to forever assure that we have equity, we do need an independent board, which is what this legislation, this ordinance is proposing. And while there was some pushback from the administration about whether we should just combine the liquor licensing board conversation and the cannabis board conversation, I thought the chair brought up that we've done that separately with the CPC and with the CPA funds, and I thought we also made very clear that it made no sense to really give up some power from Boston through a home rule petition for the liquor licensing board to have the additional power to deal with cannabis. We'd actually have to go back to the suburbs and leave the city of Boston to ask for permission to combine that when we are going to create an infrastructure or conversation and set standards right here in Boston for Boston. So again, I want to echo, I support this wholeheartedly. I support it with the board and making sure that we create that cannabis control board. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards. Anyone else looking to speak on this matter? At this time, docket 0315 will remain in the Committee on Government Operations. Moving on to the next dockets. Thank you,
Docket
Madam
number
Clerk.
0622 through 0624, orders for the FY20 operating budget, including annual appropriations for departmental operations, annual appropriations to the school department, appropriations for other post-employment benefits, known as OPEB.
Dockets 0622 through 0624 will remain in the Committee on Ways and Means.
Docket number 0625, message and order approving an appropriation of $36,400,000 from the city's capital grant fund in order to provide funding for various transportation and public realm improvements. These projects are aligned with the goals of Go Boston 2030, the city's transportation master plan. The funds shall be credited to the capital grant fund from the parking meter fund.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilor Siomo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Docket 0625 is a transfer appropriation from the parking meter fund to the capital grant fund to fund various transportation and public realm improvement. It was sponsored by the mayor and referred to the committee on April 10th. In accordance with the city charter, the council must act on this docket today or it will automatically take effect. I recommend that docket 0625 be rejected without prejudice to allow for more time to review submitted testimony and in anticipation of an expected resubmission with the operating dockets. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Siomo. Anyone else looking to speak on this matter? At this time, Councilor Siomo, who is the chair of the Committee on Ways and Means, recommends acceptance of the committee report and that we reject docket 0625 without prejudice. All in favor of rejection, say aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0625 has been rejected without prejudice. Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll.
On docket number 0625, Councilor Baker.
Yes.
Councilor Baker, yes. Councilor Campbell.
Yes.
Councilor Campbell, yes. Councilor Siomo. Councilor Siomo, yes. Councilor Edwards. Councilor Edwards, yes. Councilor Asabi George. Yes. Councilor Asabi George, yes. Councilor Flaherty. Yes. Councilor Flaherty, yes. Councilor Flynn. Yes. Councilor Flynn, yes. Councilor Garrison. Yes. Councilor Garrison, yes. Councilor Janey. Yes. Councilor Janey, yes. Councilor McCarthy. Yes. Councilor McCarthy, yes. Councilor O'Malley. Yes. Councilor O'Malley, yes. Councilor Wu. Yes. Councilor Wu, yes. And Councilor Zachem. Yes. Councilor Zachem, yes. Madam President, docket number 0625 received a unanimous vote.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Docket 0625 has been rejected without prejudice. Madam Clerk, if we could read dockets 0626 through 0628 together.
Wonderful.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Madam President. Docket number 0626, message and order approving an appropriation of $247,675,000 for the acquisition of interests in land or the acquisition of assets or the landscaping, alteration, remediation, rehabilitation, improvements of public land, the construction, reconstruction, rehabilitation, improvement, alterations, remodeling, enlargement, demolition, removal or extraordinary repairs of public buildings, facilities, assets, works, or infrastructure for the cost of a feasibility study or engineering or architectural services for plans and specifications for the development, design, purchase, installation of computer hardware or software, computer-assisted integrated financial management and accounting systems, and any and all cost incidental and related to the above described projects for the purpose of various city departments, including Boston Center for Youth and Families, Department of Innovation and Technology, Environment, Fire, Neighborhood Development, Office of Arts and Culture, Parks and Recreation, Police and Property Management, Public Works, Transportation Department, Boston Public Library, Boston Redevelopment Authority, and the Boston Health Commission. Docket number 0627, message and order approving an appropriation of $42,405,000 for the acquisition of interests in land or the acquisition of assets or the landscaping alteration, remediation, rehabilitation, or improvement of public land, the construction, reconstruction, rehabilitation, improvement, alteration, remodeling, enlargement, demolition, removal, and extraordinary repairs of public building facilities, assets, work, or infrastructure, for the cost of the feasibility studies or engineering or architectural services for plans and specifications for the development, design, purchase, and installation of computer hardware or software and computer-assisted integrated financial management and accounting systems, and any and all incidental or related to the above described projects for the purpose of the Boston Public Schools. And docket number 0628, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to enter into one or more lease purchase or installation sales agreement in fiscal year 2020 in an amount not to exceed $28,200,000. These funds are to be used by various city departments for the acquisition of equipment in furtherance of their respective governmental functions. The list of equipment includes computer equipment, hardened software, motor vehicles, trailers, ambulance, firefighting equipment, office equipment, telecommunication equipment, photocopying equipment, medical equipment, school and educational equipment, school buses, parking meters, street lighting installations, traffic signal equipment, and equipment functionally related to and components of the foregoing.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilor Siomo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Docket 0626 through 0628 represent spending authorizations for the FY20 capital budget. These dockets were also sponsored by the mayor and referred to the committee on April 10, 2019. As you know, these dockets require 2 votes by the council, a minimum of 2 weeks apart. I rise to ask for the first reading on these dockets and to ask colleagues for a vote in the affirmative to have them assigned for further action. The projects funded by the FY20 capital budget have a significant impact on the quality of life of Boston's residents. They maintain and improve our infrastructure, enhance our mobility, ensure our safety, and provide necessary open space for both residents and visitors to enjoy all that Boston has to offer across all of Boston's neighborhoods. In addition to the significant routine maintenance projects for facilities and assets, some highlights of the budget include, out of the Office of Arts and Culture, designation of 1% of the city's annual capital budget for the commissioning of permanent public art in municipal spaces through the Percent for the Arts program. Under Boston EMS, designing and constructing a new EMS Seaport station. Under Boston Fire, beginning construction on Engine 42 in Roxbury, which will be the first new fire station built in 25 years, and incorporating the Boston Fire Department's health and wellness initiatives for its firefighters. Under Boston Police Department, beginning construction of a new police station in East Boston. Boston Public Library, the beginning of construction on a new Adams Street branch library and a comprehensive renovation of the Roslindale branch, which will enrich services and visitor experiences, reflecting the BPL Compass principles and supporting the needs of the neighborhoods. Under BPS, we have the beginning of Phase 2 kitchen upgrades at 30 schools as part of the continued expansion of the My Way Cafe fresh food program. Under Department of Innovation and Technology, continued expansion of the city's fiber optic network, which will extend access to wireless capability throughout the city to 100 BPS schools and provide public Wi-Fi opportunities. Under the Environment Department, we have the beginning implementation on 3 phases of the Climate Ready Boston initiative, focusing on climate resiliency, planning for vulnerable neighborhoods, municipal facilities affected by climate change, and enhancing the energy efficiency of municipal capital assets. Under property management, implementation of early action items from the City Hall Master Plan, including masonry, roof repairs, HVAC improvement, and construction of City Hall Plaza Phase 1, which includes a new public entrance on the North Plaza, accessibility upgrades, and extensive plaza renovations. And finally, under Public Works, completing the designs for the reconstruction of 3 major bridges, the Long Island Bridge, Northern Avenue Bridge, and Dalton Street Bridge, and increasing funding for routine maintenance for all bridges across the city. I believe this is a responsible plan that will help with the important maintenance and upkeep of our assets, improve our neighborhoods and quality of life for city residents, and demonstrate our commitment to healthy, sustainable, and economically viable Boston. I ask you to vote in the affirmative to assign these matters for further action.
Thank you, Councilor Siomo. Anyone else looking to speak on these dockets? At this time, Councilor Siomo, who's the chair of the Committee on Ways and Means, seeks the first vote on what is dockets 0626 through 0628, the capital budget, and then we will take a second vote in the future in about 2 weeks. Madam Clerk, I will call, if you could call the roll for each docket, let's take them separately, starting with docket 0626.
Thank you, Madam President. Docket number 0626, Counselor Baker.
Yes.
Counselor Baker, yes. Counselor Campbell.
Yes.
Counselor Campbell, yes. Counselor Siomo. Yes. Counselor Siomo, yes. Counselor Edwards. Yes. Counselor Edwards, yes. Counselor Asabi George. Yes. Counselor Asabi George, yes. Counselor Flaherty. Yes. Counselor Flaherty, yes. Counselor Flynn. Yes. Counselor Flynn, yes. Counselor Garrison. Yes. Counselor Garrison, yes. Counselor Janey. Yes. Counselor Janey, yes. Counselor McCarthy. Yes. Counselor McCarthy, yes. Counselor O'Malley. Yes. Counselor O'Malley, yes. Counselor Wu. Yes. Counselor Wu, yes. And Counselor Zachem. Yes. Counselor Zachem, yes. Madam President, docket number 0626 has received its first reading with a unanimous vote.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Docket 0626 will be assigned for further action. Moving on to a roll call vote for docket 0627.
Docket number 0627, Counselor Baker.
Yes.
Counselor Baker, yes. Counselor Campbell.
Yes.
Counselor Campbell, yes. Counselor Siomo. Yes. Counselor Siomo, yes. Counselor Edwards. Yes. Counselor Edwards, yes. Counselor Asabi George. Yes. Counselor Asabi George, yes. Counselor Flaherty. Yes. Counselor Flaherty, yes. Counselor Flynn. Yes. Counselor Flynn, yes. Counselor Garrison. Yes. Counselor Garrison, yes. Counselor Janey. Yes. Counselor Janey, yes. Counselor McCarthy. Yes. Counselor McCarthy, yes. Counselor O'Malley. Yes. Counselor O'Malley, yes. Counselor Wu. Yes. Counselor Wu, yes. And Counselor Zachem. Yes. Counselor Zachem, yes. Madam President, docket number 0627 has received its first reading with a unanimous vote.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Docket 0627 will be assigned for further action. And moving on lastly to docket 0628 for a roll call vote.
Docket number 0628, Counselor Baker. Yes. Counselor Baker, yes. Counselor Campbell.
Yes.
Counselor Campbell, yes. Counselor Siomo. Yes. Counselor Siomo, yes. Counselor Edwards. Counselor Edwards, yes. Counselor Asabi George. Yes. Counselor Asabi George, yes. Counselor Flaherty. Yes. Counselor Flaherty, yes. Counselor Flynn. Yes. Counselor Flynn, yes. Counselor Garrison. Yes. Counselor Garrison, yes. Counselor Janey. Yes. Counselor Janey, yes. Counselor McCarthy. Yes. Counselor McCarthy, yes. Counselor O'Malley. Yes. Counselor O'Malley, yes. Counselor Wu. Yes. Counselor Wu, yes. And Counselor Zachem. Counselor Zachem, yes. Madam President, docket number 0628 has received its first reading with a unanimous vote.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Docket 0628 will be assigned for further action. Moving on to motions, orders, and resolutions.
Docket number 0873, Councilor Janey offered the following order for a hearing regarding diversity and inclusion in Boston's arts institutions.
Councilor Janey, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Madam President. As the chair of the Committee of Arts, Culture, and Special Events, and the district councilor representing many of our highly acclaimed arts institutions, and as an advocate for racial justice, I was very dismayed and disheartened to learn about the experience of students from the Helen Y. Davis Leadership Academy at the Museum of Fine Arts a couple of weeks ago. Arts and cultural institutions are critical to our tourism economy here in the city of Boston, and they also are a great source of pride for our city and for the residents here. Arts Boston just released a report saying that arts generate billions for our economy here in Boston and bring roughly 21 million people to our region each year. Our world-renowned arts institutions are not only a critical cultural asset, they are fundamental to our economy and our society. Yet, at too many of these institutions, visitors of color are often viewed with suspicion, treated with contempt, or even taunted with racial slurs. This incident goes well beyond the Museum of Fine Arts. This is bigger than that one incident. It is time for us to have a broader conversation on race, inclusion, and diversity in the arts. I am optimistic that this is a conversation that cultural organizations are eager and willing to participate in. You and I both sat with the Museum of Fine Arts, the leadership there. There was also a meeting at the school yesterday. So I think this is an important conversation, and I'm hopeful that our cultural institutions want to participate, that they are already taking some steps in terms of providing training around cultural proficiency, around how to be more diverse. Some have even set diversity as a key part of their mission statements. And so I'm hopeful that we'll have this conversation. I think it's also important to point out as a footnote that many of our cultural institutions still have a long way to go in terms of contributing fully to the pilot here in Boston, so we can also have that conversation. But really, this is our opportunity to be proactive and thinking about how the City of Boston, our cultural institutions here can do a better job at being more inclusive, around really welcoming and respecting all folks, but also as a city, the image that we project out. You know, an opportunity to look at our websites, to look at our brochures, to look at everything that really signals here we are, Boston, as a city, and making sure that we are also being represented there. So I welcome this conversation, and I believe it will be very productive. Encourage all of you to participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Janey. Anyone else looking to speak on this matter or add their name? Madam Clerk, if you could add Councilor Siomo, Councilor Edwards, Councilor Asabi George, Councilor Flaherty, Councilor Flynn, Councilor Garrison, Councilor McCarthy, Councilor O'Malley, Councilor Wu, Councilor Zakhem, as well as the Chair, and Councilor Baker. Docket 0873 will be assigned to the Committee on Arts, Culture, and Special Events.
Docket number 0874. Councilor Janey offered the following resolution designating a Hero Square in honor of Private First Class John Francis DeFreitas at the corner of St. Botolph and Albemarle.
Albemarle.
Albemarle. I'm sorry.
Albemarle Streets. Councilor Janey, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Madam President. John Francis DeFreitas was born on July 26, 1916, in Boston, Massachusetts. John resided at 198 St. Botolph Street, and so this Hero Square would be right in his home neighborhood where he resided here in Boston. John was killed in action during the German counterattack on September 12th in 1944 for his heroism that he displayed in his service to our country. John was awarded the Purple Heart and the Combat Infantry Badge. John was survived by his parents, John and Angeline DeFreitas, at that time, who were also residents of City of Boston. This is a way to acknowledge his service and to celebrate that with this resolution that would designate a Hero Square in his neighborhood where he resided before he was killed in action. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Janey. Anyone else looking to speak on this matter? And I'm assuming, Councilor Janey, you would like to seek suspension of the rules and adoption? Thank you very much. Thank you. At this time, does anyone wish to add their name to this docket? Madam Clerk, if you could add Councilor Baker, Councilor Siomo, Councilor Edwards, Councilor Asabi George, Councilor Flaherty, Councilor Flynn, Councilor Garrison, Councilor Janey, Councilor McCarthy, Councilor O'Malley, Councilor Wu, Councilor Zakhem, as well as the Chair. At this time, Councilor Janey seeks suspension of the rules and adoption of docket 0874. All those in favor of adoption say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0874 has been adopted.
Docket number 0875. Do you want me to read the whole?
You can, and then I'll call. Thank you.
Docket 0875, Councilors Flynn and Campbell offer the following order for hearing to discuss wage theft in the city of Boston.
Counselor Flynn, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, at this time, I'd like to withdraw docket 0875. Madam President, I realize that Councilor Edwards filed a similar hearing order on wage theft as it impacts Logan Airport and the city of Boston in March, so to avoid confusion and duplicate order, I'd like to respectfully ask that this docket be withdrawn, and I just want to commend Councilor Edwards, Madam President, for tireless work, not only on the City Council, but in her professional career on working to ensure that our low-wage workers, immigrants, communities of color, but all our workers receive a decent wage, a just wage, a fair wage. I just want to thank Councilor Edwards for her excellent work on wage theft issues in the city of Boston. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Counselor Flynn, and I, of course, agree with you and join you in withdrawing this docket and apologize to our lovely Counselor Lydia Edwards. Counselor Edwards, you have the floor.
Apologize. I just think we're just all excited to make sure that we're a city where workers work and get paid for the work that they do. That's
right.
all. And so I look forward to that conversation. We've recently met with the Office of Economic Development to discuss wage theft on specific projects. We've talked with 32BJ about wage theft at Logan Airport. So this is just a continued conversation, and we look forward to Councilor Baker to scheduling that hearing as soon as possible.
Right.
To make sure that we're having that wage theft hearing. All of us, of course, are going to be there to make sure that we are a city where you work, you get paid decent wages. So thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Edwards. Looking forward to it. At this time, docket 0875 has been withdrawn.
Docket number 0876, Councilor O'Malley and Edwards offer the following order for hearing on menstrual equity in the city of Boston.
Counselor O'Malley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to first thank my dear colleague and friend, the District Council from East Boston, for her partnership and leadership on this. We are introducing a hearing order today on menstrual equity in the city of Boston. This will be my second hearing order filed as the chair of the Committee on Healthy Women, Family, and Communities, and I believe that as an ally and a feminist, it's important to have conversations that work to close the gap on public health issues that impact women and girls and low-income families. In a city where 16.5% of the population live in poverty and 78% of students in our public schools are economically disadvantaged, we must consider the issue of menstrual equity for our residents. It's critical to address the health, wellness, and educational challenges posed by lack of access to menstrual products. Worldwide, over 100 million high school students miss school each year due to lack of access of these products. Low attendance rates results in lower grades as well as lower chances of graduation. Menstrual products are an expensive necessity for many families, and they can cost, on average, about $84 per year. New York City has already implemented free menstrual products in 800 public schools, while also increasing accessibility of these products in homeless shelters as well as jails and houses of corrections. The Brookline Select Board recently voted last month to install dispensers for menstrual products in restrooms by 2021. Massachusetts chapter of the National Organization of Women, MassNow, is advocating for the I Am bill in the state legislature, which has been sponsored by Senator Pat Jalen, Representative Jay Livingstone, as well as Representative Christine Barber. This bill would provide free menstrual products to people in prisons, homeless shelters, and public schools from grades 6 through 12. There are great nonprofits I know many of you have been working with, including the at-large council from Dorchester with Katie's Closet, which accepts donations of menstrual products for 23 different Boston public schools, yet there are 75 other schools that would benefit from this program, and they currently are excluded. We as a city should help all people access these products without facing barriers that can be caused by poverty. What we need is to open the conversation, hear from individuals who are experiencing challenges with access to menstrual products, learn from their stories, and address the social determinants of health inequities. We can really lead here. This is an important first step. Look forward to continuing the great work of the Committee on Healthy Women, Families, and Communities. Once again, thank my dear colleague and friend for her partnership. Look forward to seeing this a reality in Boston and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor O'Malley. Counselor Edwards, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. And I want to also thank the original maker and then Counselor O'Malley for coming and talking to me specifically about partnering on this, I think, very important legislation. It's not just about making sure the products are available. It's also about saying, as a city, as a place where half the population at some point in their lives will menstruate, that there's no stigma about it. that these products are just as available, just like we provide water for free in the bathrooms, toilets for free in the bathrooms, hand towels to dry your hands in the bathrooms. All these are normal products that we just have because you go about your life and your day. So this is just part of the many things that we're also going to provide as well for free for individuals that menstruate. To us, this is really a conversation that basically says that when you come into BCYF, when you come into our homeless shelters, when you come into the places where the City of Boston is funding and has an impact or influence, that all are welcome and that the products that you need in order to go about your life are also available, regardless of your income. So this is, I think, is a common sense legislation, and I wanted to also not only echo the organizations that Councilor O'Malley had mentioned as in their leadership, but also wanted to recognize my sister in service, Manika Bowman, in Cambridge, who also introduced, I believe, this a couple years ago, and she led Cambridge to also provide for equity and free menstrual products in their schools. So this is something that is part of a movement, and it's just part of something that's common sense. If you're going to be opening up our schools and making sure people are there and feel welcome, that this is a normal thing, should be available.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards. Councilor Sabi George, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I rise to express my strong support for this hearing order and to thank our colleagues from West Roxbury and East Boston for their leadership on this issue. The subject of menstrual equity is very important to me, specifically in the context of a healthy school environment, because the impact that access to products have on student attendance, achievement, and overall comfort and well-being among their peers. As a former school teacher, I always kept a steady supply of menstrual products in the bottom right-hand drawer of my desk, still do today, because I know firsthand of the embarrassment of being unprepared for your period and the negative impact that has on your performance, engagement in the classroom, especially when there's a lack of access to this in the schools, and are requiring of kids to go to the nurse's office should they need something. While I was preparing for this year's budget cycle, nurses and students from BPS brought to my attention that funding for menstrual products in BPS were allocated through their medical supplies budget. With limiting their ability to ensure access to menstrual products, especially for the schools that lacked a full-time nurse, which is why I made a point to ask about their policy and was very disappointed to learn from the administration that a vast majority of our high schools don't have a single dispensary in their building. In addition to low-income families, lack of access to menstrual products will also have a disproportionate impact on girls and young women of color because they have a significantly greater risk of developing diseases of the reproductive system that are not STDs, such as fibroids, endometriosis, and early onset puberty. These diseases are reported in young black girls as young as 8 years old, creating a greater need for widespread access to these products. As we work to build supportive and healthy school environments that provide an equal opportunity for success and academic achievement, expanding access to menstrual products will play an important role in how we reduce the social barriers of racial and socioeconomic disparities for our girls and young women. I actually was testifying up at the State House earlier this week on another item, and this was part of the docket, and a young woman spoke who had presented the state bill. And as she presented it, and as her conversations have been public, one of the menstrual product companies had volunteered to donate $10,000 worth of supplies to that school district. I think this offers us an opportunity for partnership with private companies and realize the great expense that many of our young women and girls go through to buy their menstrual products, and recognize that a nurse's budget doesn't always cover enough. And certainly doesn't always cover high-quality products, because there is a difference in the types of products we give girls access to when we do give them access. Please add my name. I look forward to this hearing and look forward to changing how we provide these products, especially in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Sabi George. Madam Clerk, if you could add Councilor Sabi George, anyone else? Councilor Siomo, Councilor Baker, Councilor Flaherty, Councilor Flynn, Councilor Janey, Councilor McCarthy, Councilor Wu, Councilor Zakhem, as well as the chair. Let's see, docket 0876 will be assigned to the Committee on Healthy Women, Families, and Community.
Docket number 0877, Councilor O'Malley offered the following order for hearing on feasibility of a textile recycling program in the City of Boston.
Councilor O'Malley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Around this time of year, many people start cleaning out their closets and donating their old clothes as they get ready for a new season. In fact, in Massachusetts, each year, residents and businesses dispose of more than 250,000 tons of textiles each year. The vast majority of those get caught in the waste stream. Now, the reason why this is critical is because 97% of textiles can actually be reused, recycled, or this notion of upcycled, that's taking old material and putting into a new filler for pillows, for example. That is a staggering statistic, and there's clearly more that we need to do. Now, right now, the city is in the midst of sort of having a new negotiation with Casella, who does our recycling contract, to try to negotiate a better rate. To put this in perspective, in my 9 years on this body when I was first elected, and certainly the Chair of Ways and Means can tell you this, we used to generate a fairly, I would say, generous revenue stream from our tonnage of recycling. It was about $7, $8, $10 per ton. The waste stream is about $80, $85 per ton. That waste stream bearing has stayed essentially the same, but the cost for recycling has dropped considerably. We're now paying for it, and there could be a time in the not-too-distant future where it actually costs more per tonnage to recycle than it does just to bury trash. That is a terrifying statistic to all of us who care and love the environment. Luckily, this city is committed to doing whatever it takes to make sure that we can increase our recycling. But the fact of the matter is we need to have a tough conversation about the fact that single-stream recycling does not work. It is not the best option for cities going forward. Now, what do I mean by that? The notion of single-stream recycling makes a tremendous amount of sense. Make it easier for folks, get more people to participate in it. In theory, that should be the case, but that's clearly not the case. And in fact, our recycling rates have stayed pretty static for the last decade plus. And that's something that's really challenging. So how do we address that? Well, we need to acknowledge the fact that not everything that ends up in the recycle bin has the same value as the others. There are certain things that have a lot of value. Paper, for example, has a tremendous amount of value, yet when it's put into the single-stream recycling, it gets contaminated and therefore is worthless. Textiles have an incredible value, but again, they can get contaminated and no longer generate revenue for the city. What is my point here? My point is we have an option to look at what other cities and towns have done, 40 throughout the Commonwealth have done, which is a separate textile recycling. Now, I'm not going to give a free commercial to this business, but there is a pink bag. I had argued for purple, but I think the at-large councilor from Dorchester is happy with the pink, that provides this to every household in any given city, collects textiles when they're filled up. These are old clothes, old towels, old sheets, whatever, recycles them, gives the person another bag to use for another drop-off, and it pays a tonnage fee to that city. They do it all on their own. There is zero cost to the taxpayer, and it actually can generate tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to a municipality every year. This is what Boston ought to be doing. We can leverage our sheer size. We can leverage the fact that we've got a tremendous amount of resources here, and we can do it right. And also, it's going to not only drive our recycling costs down, it's going to generate some revenue for the city of Boston. As it comes to curbside textile recycling, we have to do this. You know, many of us have been talking about curbside composting as well, which is another great passion of mine. That's a little more, that can be a little bit more labor intensive in terms of the process to get there. But for textile recycling, we should be putting out an RFP, an RFQ, get some businesses in here that want to work with us, or maybe we make the determination that the city should be running this program itself. But this is another opportunity where sound environmental policy can also generate revenue for the city of Boston. It doesn't get any better than that. Let's get to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. Councilor Flaherty, you have the
Please
floor.
sign my name, Madam President.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, if you could add Councilor Flaherty, Councilor Baker, Councilor Siomo, Councilor Edwards, Councilor Sabi George, Councilor Flynn, Councilor Janey, Councilor McCarthy, Councilor Wu, Councilor Zakem, as well as the chair. And I must say, I wanted to clap after that. Thank you. Docket 0877 will be assigned to the Committee on Environment, Sustainability, and Parks.
Docket number 0878, Councilor Asabi George offered the following resolution recognizing June as Immigrant Heritage Month.
Councilor Sabi George, you have the floor.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. I'm very excited to present this resolution to recognize Immigrant Heritage Month and the large and diverse immigrant populations in our city. This year marks the 5th annual Immigrant Heritage Month, observed in June, and offers a chance to celebrate those who have contributed to Boston's neighborhoods, economy, and its vibrant diversity. This year, I had the opportunity to visit Tunisia on a U.S.-sponsored trip by the Arab American Institute, to support Tunisia in their most recent decentralization and elections. I was honored to be able to visit my grandmother as the only elected Tunisian American of Tunisian descent. My childhood was defined by the experience of being a daughter of a Polish and Tunisian parents, and also living with my grandparents who immigrated to the U.S. from a displaced persons camp in Poland. One of my primary motivations to run for office was my experience growing up in an immigrant household. At a very young age, I expressed an interest in public office to my Arab father, who quickly told me that an Arab girl with the last name of Saibi could never get enough votes from the residents of Boston. So being able to stand here today as an at-large city council representing the entire city of Boston, it is more than just fulfilling a childhood dream. It is a living testament to the contributions that immigrants have made and continue to make in the city of Boston and beyond. It's also a testament to the character of our city. Whether it was the Irish community after the potato famine, or the Polish community in the aftermath of World War I and II, or the Haitian community after the wake of devastating earthquakes. Our city of Boston has and always welcomed and embraced immigrant populations. Immigrant Heritage Month should also be used as a time to remember that nearly all of us can trace our heritage to another nation and honor the courage and bravery it took for our ancestors to start life anew through their belief in the American dream. While some would deny the contributions of immigrants, Boston will always be proud to call itself a city of immigrants and reaffirm its support and appreciation for our cherished foreign-born population and their children. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Sabi George seeking suspension of the rules and adoption.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Anyone else looking to speak on this matter or add their name? Madam Clerk, if you could add Councilor Baker, Councilor Siomo, Councilor Edwards, Councilor Flaherty, Councilor Flynn, Councilor Garrison, Councilor Janey, Councilor McCarthy, Councilor O'Malley, Councilor Wu, Councilor Zachem, as well as the Chair. At this time, Councilor Sabi George seeks suspension of the rules and adoption of docket 0878. All those in favor of adoption say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0878 has been adopted.
Docket number 0879, Councilor Sabi George offered the following: order for hearing on the proposed north-south rail link.
Councilor Sabi George, you have the floor.
Thank you again, Madam President. I do request and move for substitution. The updated version is on everyone's desk.
Any objections to substituting? No problem, Councilor Sabi George. Madam Clerk, if we could just reflect in the record that there is a new version. Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Councilor Sabi George.
Thank you again, Madam President. Earlier this year, a study came out indicating that Boston is the worst city in terms of traffic. I don't think any of us actually need a study to confirm that. Boston area drivers lose an average of 164 hours each year sitting in traffic, the most in the nation. If we want to improve connectivity, increase competitiveness and efficiency for the region, make commuting more convenient and accessible to all, and reduce the environmental impact of commuting, we need to support the necessary infrastructure. Boston is served by two commuter rail systems, one extending to the north of the city, the other to the south. Boston is the single gap in continuous services between Amtrak's Northeast Corridor, which runs from Washington, D.C. to Boston, and Amtrak's Downeaster, which runs from Brunswick, Maine to Boston. The result is a fragmented region in which workers and employers cannot access each other efficiently, where highway congestion is severe and economic opportunity is very unequally distributed. These disconnections squander the potential of our existing transportation infrastructure and hobble our regional economy. Connecting our northern and southern rail lines with a rail link between North and South Station will transform our 19th century rail lines into a world-class regional rail system, leveraging the value of our existing rail infrastructure and vastly increasing access and opportunity across the region. I look forward to having this important hearing and discussing ways to improve the infrastructure in our city in order for the city to be accessible to all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Sabi George. Councilor Janey, you have the Councilor Janey. Councilor Edwards, you have the floor. No, don't get me.
Thank you, Madam President, and I wanted to commend the maker. I can't imagine a more present conversation to be having right now, especially about how we're going to move folks in Boston. I look forward to this hearing. I look forward to bringing all the partners into the room to really talk about how what we can leverage as a city of Boston to get this done. At the end, I live in East Boston. I live by the Sumner Tunnel, which was fixed recently. And as a result of that, we have probably seen more traffic than we've ever seen before. And again, a lot of that is North Shore traffic coming in. And it would be wonderful to know that they can come in and connect one day to the South Shore through the city of Boston. So this is exactly the kind of conversation I'm excited to have, and I wanted to commend the maker for this and her leadership.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards. Add your name? Madam Clerk, if you could add Councilor Edwards. Anyone else? Councilor Baker, Councilor Siomo, Councilor Flaherty, Councilor Flynn, Councilor Garrison, Councilor Janey, Councilor O'Malley, Councilor Wu, Councilor Zachem, as well as the chair. Docket 0879 will be assigned to the Committee on Planning, Development, and Transportation.
Docket number 0880, Councilor Edwards offers the following resolution supporting the red-blue connector.
Councilor Edwards, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. This, I think, just dovetails wonderfully with the conversation that we're going to eventually have on the north-south rail link. Luckily, the State House has already taken up leadership in this and has included that conversation in the capital budget. I don't think it's confusing to anybody or there's any question in anyone's mind as to why the red-blue line connector makes sense. At the end of the day, it is the only two lines that actually don't touch each other right now. And for many of us in East Boston and those who rely all the way up into Revere to get on the blue line to connect to services such as MGH or other hospitals, or even just getting further down the red line, this would be a wonderful streamlined approach. We have an opportunity, luckily now with the large development that's about to happen at MGH, we can see where it can happen at Bowdoin and also at the MGHT stop. And this is also fulfilling promise that we were made for the big dig. Also, we had promises when it came to mass border mitigation. So this is part of a conversation that's been going on for many years. And so this resolution is in recognition of those current advocates, my state representative, Adrian Madro, who is the vice chair of transportation, my senator, Joe Boncory, who's the chair of transportation. Their leadership, I wanted to acknowledge that in this House, and also to thank folks, Councilor Wu is actually at the hearing as well to support this. So what we're hoping to do is, with this resolution, encourage the Commonwealth to begin the preliminary design and engineering and to support that step going forward to make sure that this connector moves as soon as possible.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards. Councilor Flaherty.
Please sign my name.
Okay. Madam Clerk, if you could add Councilor Flaherty, Councilor Baker, Councilor Siomo, Councilor Asabi George, Councilor Flynn, Councilor Garrison, Councilor Janey, Councilor O'Malley, Councilor McCarthy, Councilor Wu, Councilor Zachem, as well as the chair. At this time, Councilor Edwards seeks suspension of the rules and adoption of docket 0880. All those in favor of adoption, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0880 has been adopted. Moving on to personnel orders.
Docket number 0881, Councilor Campbell for Councilor Edwards.
Councilor Edwards seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 0881. All those in favor of passage say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0881 has been passed.
Docket number 0882, Councilor Campbell for Councilor Siomo.
Councilor Siomo seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 0882. All those in favor of passage say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0882 has been passed.
Docket number 0883, Councilor Campbell for Councilor Siomo.
Councilor Siomo seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 0883. All those in favor of passage say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0883 has been passed.
Docket number 0884, Councilor Campbell for Councilor Baker.
Councilor Baker seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 0884. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0884 has been passed.
Docket number 0885, Councilor Campbell for Councilor Baker.
Councilor Baker seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 0885. All those in favor of passage say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0885 has been passed.
Docket number 0886, Councilor Campbell for Councilor Flaherty.
Councilor Flaherty seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 0886. All those in favor of passage say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0886 has been passed.
Docket number 0887, Counselor Campbell for Counselor Flaherty.
Counselor Flaherty seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 0887. All those in favor of passage say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0887 has been passed.
Docket number 0888, Counselor Campbell for Counselor O'Malley.
Counselor O'Malley seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 0888. All those in favor of passage say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0888 has been passed.
Docket number 0889, Counselor Campbell for Counselor O'Malley.
Counselor O'Malley seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 0889. All those in favor of passage say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0889 has been passed.
Docket number 0890, Counselor Campbell for Counselor Edwards.
Counselor Edwards seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 0890. All those in favor of passage say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0890 has been passed.
Docket number 0891, Counselor Campbell for Counselor Zachem.
Counselor Zachem seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 0891. All those in favor of passage say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0891 has been passed.
Docket number 0892, Counselor Campbell for Counselor Zachem.
Counselor Zachem seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 0892. All those in favor of passage say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0892 has been passed.
Docket number 0893, Counselor Campbell for Counselor Flynn.
Counselor Flynn seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 0893. All those in favor of passage say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0893 has been passed.
Docket number 0894, Counselor Campbell for Counselor Flynn.
Counselor Flynn seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 0894. All those in favor of passage say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0894 has been passed.
Docket number 0895, Counselor Campbell for Counselor Garrison.
Counselor Garrison seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 0895. All those in favor of passage say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0895 has been passed.
Docket number 0896, Counselor Campbell for Counselor Garrison.
Counselor Garrison seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 0896. All those in favor of passage say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0896 has been passed.
Docket number 0897, Counselor Campbell for Counselor Asabi George.
Counselor Asabi George seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 0897. All those in favor of passage say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0897 has been passed.
Docket number 0898, Counselor Campbell for Counselor Asabi George.
Counselor Asabi George seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 0898. All those in favor of passage say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0898 has been passed.
Docket number 0899, Counselor Campbell for Counselor Janey.
Counselor Janey seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 0899. All those in favor of passage say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0899 has been passed. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on to late files. I am informed by the clerk that there are 3 late files.
All personnel.
There were some others, but we've removed those, and so right now there are 3. They are all personnel orders, so if you don't see them, it's because they're personnel orders. Madam Clerk, if you could read the first late file matter into the record.
Thank you, Madam President. In the City Council, June 5th, 2019, Counselor Campbell for Counselor Janey.
Counselor Janey seeks suspension of the rules and passage of the first late file matter. All those in favor of passage say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The first late file matter has been passed.
In City Council, June 5th, 2019, Counselor Campbell for Counselor Janey.
Counselor Janey seeks suspension of the rules and passage of the second late file matter. All those in favor of passage say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The second late file matter has been passed.
The third late file matter, in City Council, June 5th, 2019, Counselor Campbell for Counselor McCarthy.
Counselor McCarthy seeks suspension of the rules and passage of the third late file matter. All those in favor of passage say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The third late file matter has been passed. At this time, anybody wishing to remove anything from the green sheets may do so at this time. Councilor Edwards, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to ask that 1, 2, 3, 4 matters be removed from the green sheets.
Okay. And can you say all 4 dockets?
Absolutely, and I'll say the page number as I say the
Thank
docket,
you.
or is that?
I can do that,
Yes,
whichever
okay.
is best.
So docket number 0769, that's on page 11 of 26. Docket number 0770, that's on page 11 of 26. Docket number 0771, that's on page 12 of 26. And docket number 0772, that's on page 12 of 26. Just briefly about these, no?
I have to read them into the record first.
Sorry.
Thank you, Counselor. If I may, Madam President.
Yes, thank you, Madam Clerk.
Docket 0769, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend an amount of $17,146,361 in the form of a grant for the FY19 Community Development Block Grant, known as the CDBG, awarded by the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development to be administered by the Department of Neighborhood Development. The grant will fund production and preservation of affordable housing, revitalizing neighborhood commercial districts, assisting the renovation of non-profit facilities, improving vacant lots, promoting monitoring fair housing activities, and assisting nonprofit organizations in the operation of emergency shelters and workforce development. Docket number 0770, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend an amount of $5,336,980 in the form of a grant of the FY20 Investment Partner Grant awarded by the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development to be administered by the Department of Neighborhood Development. The grant will fund the tenant-based assistance for up to 2 years assistance to first-time home buyers. All home funds must be used to benefit low and moderate-income households. Docket number 0771, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend an amount of $2,894,494 in the amount of a grant for the FY19 Housing for People with AIDS, known as HOPWA, awarded by the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development to be administered by the Department of Neighborhood Development. The grant will fund metropolitan area housing counseling to help persons with AIDS find and retain affordable housing, technical assistance to developers of housing for persons with AIDS, and emergency assistance payments to help persons with AIDS retain their existing housing to prevent homelessness. And then docket number 772, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend an amount of $1,461,960 in the form of a grant for the FY19 Emergency Solutions Grant awarded by the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development to be administered by the Neighborhood Development Department. The grant will fund assistance for individuals and families to help them quickly regain stability in permanent housing after experiencing a crisis or homelessness.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilor Edwards, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I will be brief. These are funds that D&D needs to continue in terms of its ability to build and help those contractors with affordable housing units. It's funds used by our Office of Economic Development to make sure that small businesses get the assistance that they need. These are funds that we regularly approve, and this is something I don't think is at all controversial, and just assures that we're getting the federal funding and that we are able to administer it. So I hope that we will vote today to make sure that this funding is allocated appropriately.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards. Councilor O'Malley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Just through you to the chair, have we had hearings on these in years past? I guess is my
Councilor Edwards, you
question.
have the floor.
In the year and 6 months that I've been here, no, we've not had specific hearings on these particular funding amounts. I can say, so in my experience here, I did not hold a hearing on this funding.
All right.
So maybe to the prior
Yeah.
head.
I mean, again, I don't want to be a fly in the ointment. It's just, it's $25 million worth of federal grants, so I don't know that I'm comfortable suspending and passing until, but if this is just a reauthorization, then I'd happily withdraw my concern.
If I may.
Absolutely.
I understand, and if this was an additional new grant or funding from the federal government with conditions on that, I absolutely would want to have the hearing on it, specifically coming from this particular administration. But these are funds that have been used consistently by DND to assure that we can move on about our business of building affordable and low-income moderate housing. So if it's necessary, I'm happy to also convene a conversation directly with DND to talk about where those funds are going. But in terms of the AIDS funding, or the funding for AIDS housing, in terms of the funding for homelessness and assuring that we have job training skills, those are CDBG funds. That's a grant that's been around for I don't know how long that we've been administering as the city. So I actually think.
So just for a point of clarification, these dockets, these funding sources we've received before in the past.
Yep.
And have held hearings on, even if it's not under your committee, your leadership as committee chair, but previously under Councilor Zakem, we've held hearings on these particular forms of grants.
I'm not sure about the hearings.
I'm looking at Councilor Zakem as our previous chair of Housing and Community Development.
Turn my microphone on, Madam President.
It is on.
Yeah, we have in the past. I do think these grants are generally taken up, in my opinion, I will defer to the current chair, during DND's overall budget process. We do talk quite a bit about the external funds usage, and these are long-standing programs.
Thank you. Councilor O'Malley? Any additional questions? Okay.
That's fine.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Councilor O'Malley. Thank you, Councilor Edwards, and Councilor Baker, you have the floor.
Yes, as the chair before, Councilor Zakem, I had hearings.
Thank you to the previous chair.
Well, I was trying to have I just want to be seen, that's all.
We see you, Councilor Baker.
I was the previous housing chair, had meetings on them, and then it had hearings on them, but
Okay.
through those hearings, realized that it's a standing sort of thing that comes from the feds, pretty straightforward, always spent on the same thing. I'm comfortable with a suspend and pass here today, but if other people are not, then we'll go with whatever the body wants to do. Thank you.
No, it sounds like it's fine. It was just a point of clarification. If we've had hearings on these specific grants in the past, and if they're reauthorizations that D&D has received over and over again, and it sounds like based on the testimony of all of our previous chairs, at least since I've been here, that is the case. So thank you, and thank you, Councilor O'Malley, for the question, and thank you, Councilor Edwards. At this time, Councilor Edwards is seeking suspension of the rules and passage of dockets 0769, 0770, 0771, and 0772. If we could take those separately. So for docket 0769, all those in favor of passage, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0769 has been passed. For docket 0770, all those in favor of passage, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0770 has been passed. For docket 0771, all those in favor of passage, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0771 has been passed. For docket 0772, all those in favor of passage, say aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0772 has been passed. Moving on to the consent agenda, I am informed by the clerk that there are 0 late file matters. At this time, the chair moves for adoption of the consent agenda. All those in favor of adoption, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. The consent agenda has been adopted. Any announcements? Just a reminder, Councilor O'Malley has his lunch today immediately after the council meeting. Thank you. At this time, I would like all guests, staff, colleagues to please rise as we adjourn today's meeting in memory of the following individuals. For Councilor Baker, Colleen Hogan. For Councilor Janey, Sylvia M. Alston. Eleanor Ruth Pyburn. And for Counselor Flaherty, Arthur DeVasto. And for Counselor Siamo and Counselor Flaherty, Cynthia Franks. A moment of silence, please. Thank you. The chair moves that when the council adjourns today, it does so in memory of those aforementioned individuals. We are scheduled to meet again in this chamber at Boston City Hall on the 5th floor on Wednesday, June 12th. All those in favor of adjournment say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The council is adjourned.